What if a simple fantasy, like swapping lives with someone else, spirals into something far more sinister? Imagine a world where what starts as a playful exchange turns into a dangerous dance with obsession and ultimately leads to murder. Welcome to a story where the lines between fantasy and reality blur, taking unexpected turns at every corner. This is not just another tale. It's a chilling journey into the shadows of human desire and the unthinkable lengths some might go to fulfill them. Stay with us as we unravel the twisted tale of the wife swap fantasy that turned deadly. You won't want to miss a moment of this gripping exploration into a world where fantasies can tiptoe over the edge into madness. The story begins with two seemingly ordinary couples living in the same picturesque neighborhood. First, we meet John and Emma, an ambitious pair with a taste for adventure. John, a charismatic entrepreneur, and Emma, a creative artist, lead a life that is both exciting and full of ambition. Despite their apparent happiness, there lurks an unspoken yearning for something new and thrilling. Across the street live Mark and Lisa, a couple known for their seemingly perfect lives. Mark is a successful lawyer, while Lisa manages a thriving boutique. On the surface, they have it all, yet behind closed doors, they both long for a change from their monotonous routines. The initial spark between the couples ignites at a casual neighborhood barbecue. It begins innocently enough, with light-hearted conversation and laughter. As the drinks flow, so do the stories about their lives and dreams. During the night, an intriguing idea is tossed around, the allure of living another's life, if only for a brief moment. What starts as a joke soon becomes a tantalizing thought that lingers in their minds, creating a bond based on a shared fantasy. Little do they know, this playful notion is about to spiral into a tangled web of obsession, unraveling secrets and desires hidden within their hearts. As we delve deeper into their lives, the edges of their reality will blur, taking us along on a sinister journey where the boundaries of fantasy and madness are tested. The fantasy's initial appeal wrapped itself around the couples like a seductive whisper in the night, the allure of escapism irresistible to each of them. For John and Emma, the idea of swapping lives with another couple was like stepping into a thrilling novel, a chance to inject a burst of unpredictability into their carefully curated existence. They were drawn to the possibility of living without boundaries, diving into the unknown, and escaping the pressures that came with their ambitious pursuits. The excitement of shedding their daily personas, even if just for a fleeting moment, was a siren call they found impossible to ignore. On the other side, Mark and Lisa found the concept equally tantalizing for its promise of a break from routine. For Mark, the constant grind of the legal world had worn thin, and the fantasy offered a chance to step away from his relentless responsibilities and experience life from a fresh perspective. Meanwhile, Lisa, who poured her heart into crafting a successful boutique, saw the swap as a canvas where she could paint with colors she had never dared touch. The idea of stepping into Emma's creative shoes and exploring her artistic world was a dream Lisa never knew she craved until it was right in front of her, within reach. The thought of living vicariously through another's experiences held a mysterious charm. It wasn't just about trading places. It was about experiencing the thrill of the unknown, a form of escapism that promised to breathe life into their stagnant routines. But beneath the surface of this appealing fantasy lurked the dangers of blurred identities and untamed desires. They were blind to the seeds of obsession being planted in their hearts, seeds that would soon grow roots deeper than any of them could have ever imagined. As they stood on the precipice of a fearless new adventure, little did they know that their pursuit of change was about to tiptoe into the realm of the dangerous and unpredictable. The swap experience was meant to be a liberating escape, a break from the monotony, where each couple could explore the untapped corners of their lives through the lens of another's experience. John and Emma relished the opportunity to live without expectations, diving headfirst into Mark and Lisa's world with a sense of excitement that was both intoxicating and terrifying. They saw it as a chance to reinvigorate their relationship, to find inspiration and adventure in the mundane, and to reignite the passion that once burned brightly. While Emma embraced the thrill of managing the boutique, weaving her artistic touch into its vibrant displays, John found unexpected delight in navigating the legal circles Mark frequented, his charm opening doors he never knew existed. The thrill of the swap was like a thrilling roller coaster, propelling them forward with exhilarating speed. Meanwhile, Mark and Lisa approached the switch with a curiosity that bordered on obsession. For Lisa, slipping into Emma's shoes was a revelation, awakening a dormant creativity she had long since buried under the weight of her responsibilities. She painted with colors that danced across the canvas, her soul singing with newfound freedom. Mark, on the other hand, savored the adrenaline rush of John's entrepreneurial lifestyle. He found joy in building something from scratch, relishing the challenge, the unpredictability, and the sweet taste of risk. For a brief moment, it felt as though they were indeed living the lives they had always dreamed of, as if swapping identities could reignite the excitement that had slowly fizzled over the years. The initial stages of the swap were filled with laughter and discovery, a period where boundaries dissolved and their worlds intertwined in unexpected harmony. The emotions were raw and untamed, a whirlwind of euphoria, nervous anticipation, and daring hope. Together, they believed they had stumbled upon a secret key to rekindling the lost spark in their marriages. Little did they realize that this seemingly innocent adventure was setting in motion a series of events that would soon blur the lines between reality and fantasy, plunging them into a labyrinth of hidden desires and dangerous obsessions. The swap was supposed to breathe new life into their relationships, but as we venture deeper into their tangled stories, the shadows of their unspoken yearnings grow darker, and the path they traverse begins to unravel in ways they could never have foreseen. The fantasy began unraveling as jealousy and possessiveness crept in, sowing seeds of discord among the couples. At first, the excitement and novelty of the swap masked the underlying tensions that were slowly beginning to surface. However, as the days turned into weeks, subtle changes in behavior started to take shape, reflecting the emotional turmoil brewing beneath the surface. For John, observing Emma's growing bond with Mark was no longer a game. What once appeared as innocent curiosity now seemed like a deeper connection, stirring feelings of inadequacy and insecurity. He found himself questioning whether Emma was truly content with their life, or if the allure of a different path was pulling her away from him. His thoughts ran wild, each moment spent without her becoming an echo of doubt in his mind. Emma, too, was not immune to these emotions. Despite enjoying the new experiences, she couldn't help but notice the familiarity Mark seemed to share with her world. The way Mark adapted so effortlessly to her lifestyle made her wonder if he was seeing something in her that John had overlooked, sparking a fear that she would become just another forgotten chapter in their mutual story. Across the street, Mark faced a similar struggle. The more time he spent in John's shoes, the more he admired the life John had constructed, leading to an unexpected sense of envy. He longed for aspects of John's dynamic world, yet with these desires came an unsettling awareness that he might never fully possess them. Lisa, on the other hand, found herself entranced by the artistic freedom she experienced through Emma's lenses. But the fulfillment she felt was marred by the nagging suspicion that she'd left a void in her own household, a gap that perhaps neither she nor Mark could ever fill again. This unanticipated mix of joy and resentment sprang from their unspoken fears, which began to weave a complex web of emotions, slowly pulling at the seams of their relationships. What had started as a harmless exploration of dreams was now a breeding ground for distrust and suspicion, where glances held unspoken accusations and silence became oppressive. The once discussed dreams were now shadowed by the fear of losing what they had not only with each other, but within themselves. These tensions simmered quietly, a latent storm waiting to unleash its fury, turning their lives into an arena of unease where trust was as fragile as thin ice. As we delve deeper into their unraveling fantasy, it becomes clear that the specter of obsession is casting an ever-darkening shadow over their hearts, leading them down a path where the boundaries between playful fantasy and chilling reality are on the brink of collapse. The dance with madness has begun, and only time will reveal the true depth of its reach. The turning point was a chilly evening when boundaries were finally and irreversibly crossed. It took place during a seemingly innocent dinner party hosted by John and Emma. The couples, now overly entwined in each other's lives, gathered around a table decorated with flickering candles, casting long shadows across their faces. What began as friendly banter quickly turned into something more intense, as unspoken tensions bubbled beneath the surface. A casual remark by Emma, meant as a joke, about how well Mark understood her creative world, struck a nerve with John. The offhand comment opened a chasm of doubt and insecurity that had been silently festering. John's laughter was forced, masking a growing unease that now lay bare. Meanwhile, Lisa, observing her husband's easy rapport with Emma, found herself engulfed by a wave of anxiety. It wasn't just the familiar smile Mark wore, but the light in his eyes when he spoke to Emma that unsettled her. That night the air was thick with an unnameable tension as the evening drew on, marked by subtle glances and conversations that carried layers of hidden meanings. This gathering, meant to reaffirm their friendship, instead laid the foundation for an emotional upheaval none could foresee. From there, the descent into obsession was swift. Mark began visiting Emma's studio more frequently, ostensibly to discuss their shared interest in art, while John started keeping late hours, claiming work obligations that were mere excuses to examine Mark's life more closely. Their mutual pretense of normalcy began to crumble as the walls of trust that once stood strong shattered quietly into countless invisible shards. It became clear that the fantasy was no longer a benign escape, but a menacing force that had taken root in each of their hearts. Emma's painting took on darker tones, mirroring her inner turmoil, while John's business dealings grew erratic, marked by a desperation to prove himself. Lisa's boutique turned from a place of vibrant creativity to a refuge where she grappled with her insecurities. Each new design reflecting a struggle for identity. And Mark, once so confident, found himself lost in the duality of lives he tried to juggle, his focus split and his ambitions faltering. The shift was complete. What started as a playful fantasy had now become a dangerous obsession, a shadowy grip on their lives that blurred right from wrong. Lines they vowed never to cross lay behind them, leaving each of them trapped in a maze of their own making. What lay ahead was a journey into the unknown, with consequences neither couple could imagine, each step drawing them closer to the precipice of their darkest fears. They were no longer dancing with fantasy. They were waltzing with chaos, a step from which there would be no easy return. The obsession takes hold, seeping into the fabric of their daily lives like an insidious fog. As the lines between fantasy and reality continue to blur, each individual begins to unravel under the weight of their desires. John, once a man of confidence and ambition, now finds himself entangled in a web of paranoia and jealousy. His once sharp focus on business has dulled, replaced by an obsessive need to uncover every detail of Mark's interactions with Emma. His sleep becomes restless, haunted by visions of betrayal and loss, fueling a growing sense of inadequacy that gnaws at his peace of mind. Emma, too, is not immune to the creeping tendrils of obsession. Her art, once a joyful expression of creativity, shifts into darker themes, reflecting the chaos within her heart. She becomes increasingly distant, her thoughts consumed by the tantalizing allure of the life she glimpsed through Mark's eyes. The satisfaction she once found in her marriage now seems pale in comparison to the vivid dreams that keep her awake at night, whispering promises of a life yet to be lived. Across the street, Mark stands at the precipice of his old life, teetering on the edge of a new reality, crafted from half-truths and forbidden desires. His days are filled with a constant tug of war between the responsibilities he once cherished and the intoxicating freedom he glimpsed through John's world. He becomes secretive, his actions cloaked in ambiguity, as he struggles to reconcile his growing fascination with the life he secretly covets. Lisa feels the strain most acutely, her heart a battlefield of conflicting emotions. The boutique, her sanctuary, no longer offers solace. Instead, it mirrors her internal conflict, a canvas where she grapples with her identity. Her creativity, though rekindled, is marred by a pervasive sense of loss, a nagging fear that the life she built may never truly satisfy her. She watches Mark, noting the subtle shifts in his demeanor, and wonders if her marriage is slipping through fingers like grains of sand. As tensions rise, subtle behaviors evolve into overt signs of psychological unraveling. Arguments flare with little provocation, words laced with unspoken accusations that linger long after they've been uttered. The couple's once harmonious lives descend into chaos, a dance of suspicion and fear that leaves them isolated within their own minds. Trust, once a solid foundation, crumbles into a fragile facade, barely holding back the tide of emotions threatening to engulf them. Each day brings new challenges, a relentless test of wills that strains the fabric of their relationships to its breaking point. They are no longer simply living their lives. They are trapped within a narrative of their own making, where desire and doubt cast long shadows over every decision. The unfolding drama takes on a life of its own, a relentless force that propels them toward an uncertain future. The once playful fantasy has transformed into a relentless tormentor, pushing them ever closer to a precipice from which there may be no return. As the obsession takes hold, each couple stands on the edge of madness, their lives poised for a final, irrevocable descent into the unknown. The final days of normalcy unfolded with an eerie calm, like the eye of a storm where silence veiled the brewing chaos. The couples, ensnared in their tangled web of desires and suspicions, went through the motions of everyday life, clinging to routines that seemed to promise a semblance of control. Yet beneath the surface, subtle signs of the approaching storm were quietly taking shape, ignored by eyes that no longer saw clearly. John, his nerves frayed by an insistent unease, threw himself into work with a manic energy that did little to quiet his fears. His business meetings became performances, a way to reclaim a confidence that was slipping from his grasp. When home, he found himself watching Emma with a scrutinizing gaze, searching for hints of what he dreaded most while convincing himself that everything was just as it had been. Emma, on the other hand, drifted through her days in a haze, her thoughts lost in a labyrinth of conflicting emotions. Her artwork became a refuge, a place where she could pour her confusion and longing into shapes and colors that hinted at a tale untold. To outsiders, she was merely absorbed in her craft, yet to those who truly saw her, the transformation from vibrant to shadowed was impossible to miss. Across the street, Mark wore a mask of composure, even as his inner world reeled with questions and desires that defied the life he had built. At the office, he doubled down on his commitments, each transaction a distraction that only partially concealed his growing restlessness. At home, he moved with the careful precision of someone navigating an unfamiliar terrain, unsure of where each step might lead. Lisa's boutique, once a beacon of creativity and joy, became a stage for her quiet crisis. Customers noticed the new edginess in her designs, unaware they were witnessing the outward expression of a heart in turmoil. She smiled and chatted, but her mind was miles away, wrestling with thoughts she dared not voice. A nagging intuition whispered warnings she pushed away, a dull ache that grew stronger with each passing day. As the couples interacted, their conversations held a strained politeness, a subtle tension vibrating beneath the surface like a taut wire. Glances that once conveyed affection now seemed burdened with unspoken questions, and moments of silence stretched on, filled with meanings left unsaid. Their lives, once intertwined in a playful fantasy, were now entwined in a complicated dance where unseen forces pulled at the strings. If they felt the shift, they refused to acknowledge it, for doing so would mean facing a truth none were ready to confront. In those final days, the world moved on around them, a backdrop to their internal struggles. Neighbors continued their routines, children laughed and played in the street, and the sun rose and set with indifferent regularity. The signs were there in the subtle changes of mood, the veiled expressions, the tightening grip on a reality slipping away, but they were overlooked by hearts too consumed by their own battles. The stage was set, the players in position, yet the impending tragedy lurked in the shadows, waiting for the moment when the fabric of their carefully constructed lives would unravel completely. What began as an innocent fantasy had evolved into a relentless force, drawing them to a climax none could have foreseen, each step forward bringing them closer to the brink of a life transformed by obsession and unforeseen consequences. The crime unfolds in a late-night fog, thick and impenetrable, as if the very air itself conspires to conceal the impending tragedy. It's a night like no other, where the echoes of an earlier storm still linger, leaving the air heavy with a sense of foreboding. The neighborhood sleeps under a shroud of silence, unaware of the sinister events about to unfold within its charming facade. Inside John and Emma's home, the atmosphere is unusually tense. The remnants of dinner are still on the table, a testament to the evening's earlier attempt at normalcy. But now, shadows have crept into the corners of the room, casting an eerie glow as the moon peeks through the parted drapes. It is within this unsettling calm that the storm within finally breaks. John, driven by a consuming obsession, finds himself in the grip of emotions he can no longer contain. His mind, once clear and driven, is now clouded with jealousy and fear. Each step he takes echoes through the house, a rhythmic beat that mirrors the chaos within. Following the siren call of his darkest suspicions, he approaches his home office, a place that now feels foreign and menacing. In his hand, the weight of the moment is palpable, turning an ordinary object into a symbol of the madness that has consumed him. As he stands there, every rational thought is eclipsed by a singular, unyielding impulse. Meanwhile, Emma, unaware of John's internal struggle, is lost in her own world of confusion and longing. Her art calls to her, offering a brief sanctuary from the turbulence of her heart. But tonight, even the solace of creation feels tainted, her brushstrokes unable to escape the shadows that loom large over her soul. She senses the change in the air, a subtle shift that leaves her uneasy, yet she shrugs it off, attributing it to the lateness of the hour. Across the street, Mark and Lisa's home stands in stark contrast, the lights off, the couple presumed asleep. But beneath the surface, the calm is deceptive. Mark, drawn by forces he doesn't fully understand, finds himself in Emma's world once again, this time with a resolve that defies reason. The line between admiration and obsession has blurred, his actions guided by an irresistible pull toward a life he cannot claim. In the dead of night, their paths inevitably collide. Like pieces on a chessboard, their choices set in motion the events of that fateful evening. It is in the confines of John's office that reality and nightmare coalesce. The confrontation is swift, words exchanged with a venom that has long been brewing. Accusations and denials fill the air, each word a shard of glass cutting deep into the fragile bonds of trust. The room seems to shrink around them, filled with an oppressive weight that saps the very breath from their lungs. And then, in a moment suspended in time, the unthinkable happens. A furious struggle, driven by desperation and fear, ends with a final, irrevocable act. The silence that follows is deafening, a void that swallows the chaos in an instant. The room is still, save for the echo of a life forever altered, the gravity of the moment sinking into the very walls that bear witness to the unspeakable. Outside, the world remains blissfully ignorant. The neighborhood is wrapped in the deceptive comfort of sleep, unaware that the fabric of their quiet lives has been irrevocably torn. The stars blaze indifferently above, casting a cold light on a scene of devastation hidden from view. As the night deepens, the truth of what has occurred waits patiently for the dawn, ready to unfold its shadows under the stark light of a new day. The fantasy that began as an escape has led to a chilling reality, where obsession and unchecked desire have cast their final judgment with unyielding finality. The aftermath of the crime descended upon the neighborhood like a shroud, draping everything in a chilling stillness that seemed to stretch beyond the breaking dawn. For those left behind, the air felt heavier, as if tainted by the echoes of the previous night's tragedy. The morning sun, which should have brought warmth and clarity, instead unveiled a world forever altered, punctuated by the absence of lives that had once been intertwined in a delicate balance. In the wake of the unthinkable, the emotional ripples extended far and wide, impacting everyone in ways they could scarcely comprehend. Inside John and Emma's home, the emptiness was palpable, a haunting reminder of the lives that had been shattered. Emma, thrust into a role she never imagined, found herself navigating a landscape of grief and disbelief. Her heart was a battlefield of memories and regrets, each one a sharp reminder of what had been lost. The art that once defined her now seemed distant, a faint whisper of a past life, overshadowed by the weight of present sorrows. Her days were consumed by the struggle to find meaning in the wake of the chaos, and the nights, once a canvas for her dreams, became a reflection of her darkest fears. Across the street, Lisa grappled with the remnants of a life she no longer recognized. The shop, once her haven, now stood as a testament to the void left in Mark's absence. She moved through the motions with a quiet determination, her mind a flurry of unanswered questions that lingered in the silence of their home. Each day was a test of willpower, a battle against the creeping despair that threatened to engulf her. The community around them felt the impact too. Neighbors, once oblivious to the brewing storm, were now left to ponder the fragility of relationships and the hidden depths of human desire. Conversations held in hushed tones over fences and in coffee shops echoed with shock and sympathy. The tragedy served as a stark reminder of the unpredictability of life and the unforeseen consequences of unchecked fantasies. Legally, the ramifications of the crime were swift and unyielding, marked by the arrival of investigators determined to piece together the story from the tangled threads left behind. The once peaceful neighborhood turned into a focal point of scrutiny, with detectives sifting through lives for clues that might explain the descent from fantasy to tragedy. Witnesses were interviewed and every detail examined under the harsh light of justice. The investigation, with its methodical pursuit of truth, cast a long shadow over the community, sparking fear and uncertainty among those who had once felt secure within its borders. Each revelation brought with it a new wave of grief, an understanding that the lives touched by the crime would never be the same again. The legal proceedings unfurled with an air of inevitability, each step a reminder of the choices that had led to this moment. For those involved, the courtroom became a stage where their private lives were laid bare to the world, a painful reckoning with the consequences of their actions. Through the emotional retelling of events, the stark reality of the crime became clear, a chilling narrative of obsession, desire, and the ultimate cost of living in a fantasy. As the legal system sought to bring closure, the emotional scars remained, a testament to the depth of the tragedy that had unfolded. In the end, the aftermath of the crime left an indelible mark on all who had been touched by its shadow. For Emma, Lisa, and their neighbors, life would move forward, yet the memories of what transpired would linger long after the legal judgments were made, a haunting reminder of the fine line between fantasy and reality. And so, with heavy hearts and cautious steps, they began to piece together their lives, forever changed by the darkness that once descended upon their quiet corner of the world. The investigation commenced with a sense of urgency, as law enforcement descended upon the scene with precision and determination. The officers, experienced yet visibly affected by the gravity of the crime, began their meticulous work to unravel the tangled web of events that had led to this tragic outcome. The first step was securing the crime scene, ensuring that every inch of the house was combed for evidence. Forensic experts moved through the rooms, their eyes scanning for anything that could shed light on the night's events. Fingerprints and DNA samples were collected with care, each piece of evidence a potential key to unlocking the truth behind the chaos that had unfolded. The investigators methodically documented the scene, capturing the heavy silence that spoke volumes about the emotional storm that had erupted within its walls. As they pieced together the puzzle, the investigators turned their attention to the timeline, reconstructing the final hours leading up to the crime. Witnesses were interviewed, their accounts painting a picture of escalating tension and unspoken fears. Neighbors described the subtle changes in behavior they had observed in the days leading up to the tragedy, each detail adding another layer to the unfolding narrative. Phone records and email exchanges were scrutinized, revealing a trail of communications that hinted at the growing obsession and jealousy among the couples. Each message and call was analyzed, uncovering a tapestry of emotions that had spiraled out of control, leading to a series of decisions that would have irreversible consequences. The investigation soon zeroed in on the motivations behind the crime, examining the psychological unraveling that had taken place. Experts on human behavior were brought in to assess the dynamics between the couples, seeking to understand how a fantasy could evolve into such a devastating reality. Their insights provided a chilling glimpse into the minds of those involved, revealing the power of unchecked desire and the fine line between love and obsession. As the pieces of evidence began to align, the truth emerged, stark and undeniable. The crime was not the result of a single moment of passion, but rather a culmination of months of suppressed emotions, unspoken fears, and escalating tensions that had finally reached their breaking point. Intense pressure weighed on the officers as they prepared to present their findings, knowing that the outcome would forever alter the lives of those involved. With the evidence trail complete, the focus shifted to bringing justice to the fore. The case moved to the courtroom, where the narrative unfolded with painstaking detail. As witnesses took the stand and evidence was presented, the truth was laid bare, each revelation serving as a somber reminder of the tragedy that had irrevocably altered lives. The courtroom drama was both a pursuit of justice and a testament to the fragile nature of human relationships when pushed to their limits. Through the legal proceedings, the chilling reality of how the fantasy had morphed into a deadly obsession became clear, providing a poignant reminder of the consequences of letting unchecked desires dictate one's actions. In the end, the investigation served not only to bring closure to the case, but also to illuminate the darkness that can arise when fantasies are allowed to blur the lines of reality. Law enforcement's relentless pursuit of the truth ensured that justice was served, yet the emotional scars left behind would remain a lasting reminder of the fine line between dreams and reality. The courtroom was a world unto itself, a stage where lives were laid bare, and the truth sought to emerge through the murky waters of legal proceedings. As the trial began, the anticipation was palpable, both inside the courtroom and among the community that watched with bated breath. It was here that the complexities of human emotion and the law would intersect, providing a sobering backdrop to the tragedy that had unfolded. As the state presented its case, the courtroom became a theater of high stakes, each testimony an act in the unfolding drama. Witnesses were called to the stand, their words weaving a narrative rich with tension and conflicting emotions. Emma, visibly shaken, recounted the weeks leading up to that fateful night, her voice a mix of sorrow and strength as she described the unraveling of their lives. Her testimony painted a vivid picture of the emotional turmoil and undercurrents of obsession that had gripped the couples, shedding light on the motives and fears that had remained hidden until it was too late. She spoke of the shifting dynamics, the conversations laced with jealousy and distrust, and the haunting sense that they were spiraling towards an inevitable conclusion. Lisa's testimony brought a different perspective, her voice tinged with regret and a lingering disbelief at the surreal turn their lives had taken. She detailed the subtle changes in Mark's behavior, the unspoken strain that had crept into their marriage, and the gradual realization that the fantasy they had indulged in was morphing into something darker and more destructive. Her account was a poignant reminder of the fragility of human desire when held up against the harsh scrutiny of reality. Expert witnesses were brought in to provide a deeper understanding of the psychological aspects at play. Psychologists testified about the dangerous allure of living alternate lives and how such fantasies could lead to an erosion of boundaries and rationality. Their insights helped the jury grasp how a seemingly harmless escape could escalate into a deadly game of obsession and jealousy. As the trial progressed, the defense sought to untangle the web of accusations, striving to portray the events as a tragic accident rather than a premeditated crime. They presented evidence of the couple's initial intent for harmless exploration, emphasizing the lack of malicious intent behind their actions. Yet, each argument brought forth by the defense was met with the cold, hard facts of what had transpired that night, presented by the prosecution with unwavering conviction. The jury listened intently as lawyers battled it out, both sides painting different pictures of the events leading to the crime. It was a delicate balance, weighing the emotional testimonies with the forensic evidence meticulously collected by the investigators. The tension in the room was tangible, a reflection of the stakes involved for those whose lives hung in the balance. After weeks of intense legal proceedings, the jury was left to deliberate, tasked with sifting through the intricate details and emotions laid before them. Their decision would bring closure to a community rocked by the tragedy, yet it would also highlight the profound impact of choices driven by unchecked desires. When the verdict was finally delivered, it resonated through the courtroom like a thunderclap, a reminder of the justice system's role in addressing the consequences of human actions. It was a verdict that brought a measure of closure to some, while leaving others to grapple with the enduring impact of the events. For those left behind, the trial served as both a reckoning and a reflection on the delicate balance of fantasy and reality, a testament to the need for understanding and compassion, even in the face of unimaginable loss. As they moved forward, the scars of what transpired remained a poignant reminder of the fine line that separates dreams from nightmares. The psychological insights into this case offer a profound understanding of the mechanisms that transformed a seemingly innocent fantasy into a deadly obsession. Expert opinions shed light on the complex interplay of emotions and desires that can spiral out of control, leading to tragic outcomes. At the core of this transformation is the concept of obsession, a powerful force that distorts perception and blurs the lines between fantasy and reality. Experts explain that obsession often begins with a deep-seated yearning for fulfillment, a desire to escape the constraints of everyday life and explore new possibilities. This longing can be amplified by the allure of experiencing life through someone else's eyes, creating a potent mix of envy, admiration, and longing that can become all-consuming. The couple's initial fantasy of swapping lives tapped into this very desire, offering them a taste of a world beyond their own, a world where their deepest aspirations could be realized, if only for a brief moment. But as psychologists point out, the danger lies in the erosion of personal boundaries. When individuals become fixated on a fantasy, they risk losing touch with their own identity, becoming entangled in a web of emotions that cloud judgment and distort reality. The experts draw parallels between this case and similar instances where the pursuit of an ideal, whether in love, success, or lifestyle, leads to a loss of self-control. This loss of control is further exacerbated by the emotional triggers buried within the participants' subconscious beliefs and past experiences. As the fantasy took hold, it awakened dormant fears and insecurities, fueling a cycle of jealousy and suspicion that fed the growing obsession. The more each participant indulged in their alternate life, the more these emotions intensified, leading to a state where logic and reason were overshadowed by desire and fear. What makes such fantasies particularly perilous, experts argue, is their ability to mask underlying issues that individuals may not be prepared to confront. In the case of John and Emma, as well as Mark and Lisa, the fantasy provided a temporary escape from unresolved tensions in their relationships, allowing them to explore a facsimile of their ideal lives without addressing the root causes of their dissatisfaction. This avoidance can have catastrophic consequences, as it prevents individuals from developing healthy coping mechanisms, leaving them vulnerable to delusions and harmful behavior. Furthermore, the experts emphasize the role of social influences and cultural narratives in shaping fantasies and desires. The couples, drawn to the idea of swapping lives, were influenced by societal ideals of success and happiness, ideals that promised fulfillment through the exploration of alternate identities. These cultural narratives can perpetuate unrealistic expectations, leading individuals to chase fantasies that ultimately prove destructive. The tragic outcome of this case serves as a stark reminder of the fine line that exists between aspirations and obsessions, highlighting the importance of understanding and managing one's desires. As the expert analysis concludes, it is crucial to recognize the signs of obsession early and seek help to address underlying issues before they spiral out of control. By fostering self-awareness and promoting open communication within relationships, individuals can navigate the complexities of personal desires without succumbing to the allure of perilous fantasies. The insights gained from this case offer a cautionary tale of the human psyche, underscoring the need for balance and introspection in the pursuit of our deepest longings. In conclusion, the unfolding of this chilling tale serves as a haunting reminder of the fragile boundary between fantasy and obsession. The devastating impact of the case reverberated far beyond the individuals directly involved, touching the families, the community, and everyone who came to know of the tragic events that transpired. It is a sobering reflection on the complexity of human desires and the perilous path that can be paved when boundaries are left unchecked. The lessons learned from this tragedy are profound and speak to the heart of our shared humanity. It highlights the importance of maintaining clear distinctions between dreams and reality, understanding that unchecked fantasies can have dire consequences. By learning to communicate openly and honestly within relationships, we can preempt the destructive forces of jealousy and obsession. For the families at the center of this story, the road to healing is long and filled with challenges. The events have left indelible marks on their lives, reshaping the fabric of their futures. Yet, there is hope in resilience, a possibility for growth and redemption. Through the pain, there is an opportunity to rebuild and to foster better understanding and empathy. For the community, this case emphasizes the need for vigilance and support systems that promote mental well-being. Recognizing the signs of obsession and providing avenues for individuals to seek help can prevent such tragedies from occurring. It is a call to action to nurture environments where people feel safe to express their fears and desires openly, without judgment. As we reflect on this dark chapter, the enduring impact serves as a testament to the complexity of the human condition. It is a story that urges us to look within, to acknowledge the power of our fantasies, and to strive for balance in the pursuit of our deepest longings. As we close this exploration, may it serve as a lesson and a reminder to cherish the realities we have, nurturing them with care, respect, and love. Thank you for joining us in this journey. Subscribe to our channel, hit the notification bell, and stay tuned as we continue to explore stories that delve into the depths of the human psyche and the mysteries that lie within us all.